Y'all, it is 67 degrees and beautiful outside. It's March 10th. I haven't been out on the porch all winter, and I needed some sun. So hi, it's Nick with Urban Farm Boys. Welcome to my front porch. There's no plants on it yet. A little too cold at night yet to turn this into my planty jungle. But I needed some sunshine. I've been in my clinicals all day in the gynecology office, and I got home. I have a bunch of stuff to do, but I've got maybe another hour or two of sun, and I was like, we're coming outside and you guys are coming with me. I needed vitamin D, so you'll have to excuse the view. This was the winter when I was gonna lose 10 pounds and regain control of my life before pool season. The last year of MP school has not been nice to the scale, so you'll just have to deal with it. But I don't care. I'm all about body positivity. We should all be proud of what we've got, no matter what it looks like, right? So today, I gotta catch up on my temperature blanket. And I'm really excited because the temperatures have kind of rapidly warmed up. I've finished January and February, and it's been a lot of very cold colors. In fact, I've used almost exclusively the colors representing anything from below freezing to the low 40s for 2 months. And now suddenly this week I get to use 4 entirely new ones. So that's fun. So that's what we're gonna do. I even had to grab, a couple weeks ago I got to add 2 new colors to my little basket. And today, this week, I get even 2 more. So I'm gonna do some granny squares and chat with you guys. How's that sound? I just realized my phone is inside and I need to look at my weather app. So let me get that. I'll be right back. March has been such a weird month. I've done the first 2 days of March, so I have like 7 more to do. I'll do a few today, but March 1st was 55, and then March 2nd it was 28 degrees. And it's so different every day now. The rest of the month so far has been 37, 48, 57, 54, 45, 39, 50, 57, and then today I think was 67. So we're all over the place, but I'm excited. So we're gonna just do some granny squares and chat. I also thought, I didn't know what I was gonna talk about today. I just kind of ran to my porch as soon as I got home and was excited to be out here. But what do you guys want to talk about? I did have this Q&A idea that I was gonna do. Maybe we'll just do a front porch Q&A. Oh my god, I'm so happy to be out here. How's the weather where you guys are? Is it starting to warm up? We also just had our daylight savings shift, and that extra hour of daylight in the evenings just makes all the difference. So it's really feeling like spring is coming. And we're going to Mexico. Wow, this yarn is thicker than what I've been using on a different project. I'm almost not used to it. I'm using thicker yarn and a smaller hook now than what I have been. But anyway, we're also going to Mexico in 2 days. I have another clinical rotation tomorrow in gynecology. 10 more hours of pap smears. And then the next morning early, we head out. And I feel like my entire being is just ready for sun and warmth. I'm sure everybody feels that way by this time in the winter. But then it's almost going to be spring. There's a little bit of a breeze. I'm sure you can hear my wind chime here. And my little bird feeder. We have a bird feeder right there with the camera. It's empty because we have a very hungry squirrel that lives out here. And he eats all of it. He eats it so much, in fact, that he ate through the plastic bin that I kept the food in. He ate a hole through the plastic so that he could easily access their food. And then I had a spare bag of food, and he ate into that, and the empty bag is sitting right behind you guys because he ate the whole thing. So now there's nothing for the birds. But anyway, why don't we do a little Q&A sesh? How's that sound? I compiled these questions a couple weeks ago, and some of them are crochet related, some of them are like just about me or about us. I don't really remember, it was a while ago, but maybe we'll just answer some questions while we swing on the porch. How's that sound? I've got some categories here: content creation and social media, LGBT and identity, travel and personal, homesteading and food, crochet and yarn. How's that sound? We'll just go random. Oh, I'm so happy to be out here. I have sunglasses because with the sun in my eyeballs, especially not seeing it all winter, I tend to get really squinty. And that's not a cute look for me, but I also don't want to wear sunglasses. I want to enjoy the day. But if I'm getting too squinty, you let me know. So let's see here. How did you get into crochet? Maybe this is going to turn to be a crochet and chill video. I guess that's kind of what it is, right? How did you get into crochet? Well, I was taught by my mom when I was younger. She used to make crochet blankets. So I kind of learned when I was very young, but I never really did anything with it. Like, I think she taught me chains and single crochet and double crochet maybe. And then was like, go to town. So I never did much because I never had straight edges, and I always used to drop stitches, but I kind of knew how. And then I didn't do anything with it for my entire life. And then when I was in nursing school, like 13, 14 years ago, I wanted something to do while I was studying. Like, I couldn't just sit and read textbooks all day. So I would actually create my notes and then record them and then listen to them. And that freed up my hands to do other things. So I started crocheting just to distract myself while I was kind of passively studying. And that's how I made one really giant, like, king-sized blanket, which I never finished. It's actually only probably 5 rows from completion. But I think I graduated from nursing school and then got busy with being a nurse. So it's almost done. You'd never know. I mean, I was making king size, and it's pretty darn close. But then I didn't really do much with it after that either. I have made a baby blanket here and there over the years, maybe like 2 or 3. But then I really got into it again last winter, as you guys saw, because I started making videos about it. Again, it was kind of like a way to relax, take a break from studying. Now I'm in nurse practitioner school. I'm almost done. But I kind of really got sucked in last winter and started making videos, and you can look on the channel and go back to my very first one, which I think I posted maybe in November or December actually of 2023, and pretty much spent, you know, every day of last year crocheting. So that's how I got into that. What's your favorite thing to crochet? I'll give you guys 3 guesses. You want to look in my hand right now? I do enjoy the granny square. And I don't want to come off as like a one-hit wonder who only ever does granny squares. I've done plenty of other things as well. And I like to learn new stitches and new patterns and try new things. But I sure do like a granny square. What's the biggest crochet project you've ever done? You guys may have seen it. My 2024 temperature blanket is enormous. It's probably, I haven't actually measured it, but it's probably 10 feet by 12 feet. It's huge. We have it currently on a king-size bed right now, but it hangs all the way to the floor on all sides, and it's on a very tall bed, so it's probably, it might be bigger. It might be like 12 by 15. It's a huge blanket. You can watch that video too. I did a big reveal when I was done. I do not plan to ever make a blanket that big again. And I didn't plan to do it the first time either. I didn't realize how big it was going to be when I started. We live very close to West Point, the military academy. And I think they're doing some kind of drill. There's military helicopters going all around, and they are loud. We also see when the military planes are doing drills. A few times a year they do these drills, and the runway is very close to our backyard. And so when they're practicing, they fly kind of right over our pool. And I think they do either I don't know, aborted landings or touchdown and then take off again, because they just go in these loops. The same plane goes over our head every few minutes. That's kind of crazy. So, but I think the helicopters are gone now. What's your favorite brand of yarn? I don't know if I have a favorite, to be honest. I've used quite a bit of sort of affordable yarn from, the big box yarn stores. I'm using the Big Twist Value right now. I've used a lot of the Loops and Threads soft classic yarn. I made my temperature blanket last year with that. And they're fine. I don't know if I would call one of those a favorite. I do really like the Lion brand Respun Thick and Quick yarn. It's a bulky yarn, and they have really pretty colors, and I really like that one a lot. I bought, quite a year ago, I bought some yarn from Ice Yarns, and I think my favorite of those was the Rainbow Picasso yarn. That one's very popular and it's always sold out, but you can get an email notification on their website, and when it's back in stock, you've got to jump on it and get it within hours, because it always sells out. But I really like that one too. Yeah. I am not really dedicated to a favorite quite yet. What's your go-to crochet hook size? Well, last year it was definitely the size 6, the 6mm, I should say. My giant temperature blanket was used with that, and a lot of the other projects I did were used with were made with the 6mm. This year I find I'm doing a bunch of things with the 5, and it's working out just fine for me. I don't really enjoy anything too much smaller. I don't really like thin, super fine yarns. I like, worsted weight and up, really, I think. So 5-6mm. I also like the bulky stuff, but somewhere between 5 and 6 is my go-to. Okay, how many whips do you have right now? That sounds kind of judgy. But there's the whips that you're gonna finish and then the whips that you're not. I've got several things that I started as kind of an experiment that I know I'm not gonna finish. But active works in progress right now, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6. I don't know, I like to change it up. And 3 of the current whips that I have are going to be year-long projects. So I have those that I've got the whole year to do, and then, I like to do other little things too that don't take an entire year. So probably 6, maybe 7. How many do you guys have? Let's see. How do you deal with hand pain from crocheting? I actually feel really lucky. I don't suffer from hand pain. Not yet. Knock on wood. The only time I had pain is when I first bought a Furls Streamline hook. They're metal and they're pretty heavy, and I was working with a like 10 millimeter one of those, so pretty robust hook, and I was working on a project like all day, and it made my hand kind of crampy that day, but I had been working on it for hours and hours and hours. Otherwise, I really have never had hand pain, so let's hope that continues. All right, first square is complete. Let me cut this. I'll weave in my ends at the end. I just want to work on some squares for now, but maybe we'll cut this and we'll change categories. How about that? New category for each square. All right, let's see what my next temperature is. 48, which is magenta. Okay, I've used magenta before, but that's fine. And let's find some other questions here. Should we do travel and personal questions? Yeah, why not? Let's see. What's your favorite place you've ever traveled to? I think I have two, and those are New Zealand and Iceland, I think. I love both of those places so much, and I actually found them very similar, even though you might not think so. I've seen more incredible nature in those two places than anywhere else in the world. When I went to Iceland in the summer, so it was like, in the 50s there, Fahrenheit. But it was super, super green and lush, just like New Zealand. So those two are probably my two favorites. Have you ever had a scary travel experience? That's a fun question. I'm going to have to think about that for a minute. Well, yes, I've had one, which was actually very scary. I'll try to be brief. My ex and I went to Turkey some years ago. We had been visiting my dad and stepmom in Denmark, where they live. And then the four of us were supposed to go all together to Turkey, where my dad and stepmom owned, at that time, a hotel, small hotel and a house. And the day before the trip, my stepmom comes out of her office looking super pale, holding her passport, and she's like, I can't go to Turkey. Her passport was nearing its expiration date, and Turkey, like many other countries, requires that your passport is valid for a certain number of months after your travel dates. I don't remember if it was 3 or 6 months or something, but hers was not in that window, and she's like, I can't go. So that was sad, and my dad elected to stay back with her. So my ex and I went to Turkey on our own, and we stayed in their house, and it was fine. It was great. I've been there before. I've been to Turkey maybe 4 times, I think, and they have a great setup. They know everyone in the town. The guy who manages their hotel was super helpful the whole time, and we had a great time until the day before we were supposed to leave, when, if you recall, all hell broke loose, and there ended up being a military coup in Turkey. And they rolled up to the airport in Istanbul with tanks. People were getting shot. People died. Hundreds of people. And then they started closing airports and seaports. And we couldn't get out. And they were also shutting down the news in Turkey and social media. So we couldn't figure out what was going on. The only thing we could do was learn from my dad and stepmom, who were back in Denmark watching it on the news, telling us what was going on. And then there was martial law, and you weren't supposed to leave your house, and we were trying to get out. Luckily, we had a lot of people to help us. My dad's neighbor is a travel agent. She tried to get us a boat to Greece from that town. There is a boat, so she was trying to get us a boat for the next day. They're like, you have to get out. The airports are closed. you got to get out and get to Greece. They shut down the boat ports. And finally they found, we didn't know anything, but they found that there was one airport in another part of Turkey that they were hearing hadn't closed completely, and some international flights were still being allowed to leave. And there was like a few seats left for a flight to Denmark, actually, the next morning. And my stepmom called. She's like, I just booked it because I don't know what's going to happen, and everyone's trying to get out of Turkey right now. By the end of our phone call, everything was completely sold out. There wasn't a seat on a plane, but she got us 2 seats. The only trouble was there was martial law. You weren't supposed to be outside of your house, and we were going to have to go hundreds of kilometers through the mountains, through the darkness, overnight to get to this other airport. They found someone who was willing to take us. I don't know who the guy was. He didn't speak any English. I don't speak any Turkish. But we got in the car with this guy, and there's no phone service, no phone reception. There's military police everywhere. And then there's all this confusion happening because there's a coup now. So the military is also trying to figure out, like, who are we taking orders from at this very moment in time? And if you've ever traveled in Turkey or in probably many other places, there's military checkpoints along the road where you have to stop, and people with very big guns look at you and look at your paperwork. I've never been so freaked out in my entire life. All I could think of was that movie Not Without My Daughter, or the Midnight Express. Is that the one where he gets thrown in a Turkish prison? Oh, Chris, my ex, slept and snored the entire time. He didn't have a care in the world. I was freaking out. I have a Danish passport, and I told Chris, if we get stopped, don't say a word. I will show my Danish passport. That we'll hope we can talk our way out of it. We went through 2 military checkpoints, and both times the military just waved us through because they were like, we don't know what's going on either. They didn't ask to see passports. They were just kind of like bewildered and waved us through. We got to the airport. It was madness at the airport. Most all of the flights were canceled. There were people everywhere. It was like a mob. But our flight was supposed to be landing, or taking off. We boarded the plane. As we're on the plane, the pilot, and this was a Scandinavian airline with a Danish pilot, he gets on the PA system and says, guys, they're closing the airport. They're shutting it down. So we have to leave right now if you want to leave, and none of your bags are on the plane. So what do you guys want to do? And the entire plane just screamed like, go, go, go. It was wild. We went. No one had bags when we landed in Denmark, but that plane took off. And once wheels were up, everyone just started cheering. It was really a frightening time. And then we landed in Denmark, and everyone cheered again. And eventually we got our bags. That was scary. I really thought, like, this can go very wrong. It didn't. It didn't. You know what the most touching part of the whole experience was? My dad's hotel manager, and he's more than that. He's like family. As he's packing us up to get into this car with this person we don't know to drive across the mountains at night, he said to me, don't worry about us, we'll be fine. This has happened before, and we'll be fine. He said, I'm just so sad now that the world will see this and be afraid of Turkey. And he said, please go back and tell your friends, like, we're not all like that and we don't want this. And that was what he was thinking of in that moment. It was very touching. That turned out to be a longer story than I thought, but wow, I really had to think about that. And then I was like, oh, I do have a kind of scary travel story. Have you ever traveled solo? Yes, I have, and I have to say I love traveling solo. I've traveled solo quite a lot, actually. When I was maybe 18, I traveled through the Baltic countries by myself. I had been in Lithuania in high school as an exchange student, and I basically went back to Lithuania to visit my friends, but I, on the way, traveled through the Baltics by myself. I also moved to London alone when I was 18 years old with like $800 in my pocket. Then I moved to Spain by myself. I've done some road trips here in the US alone. I've driven all across the Southwest. Last year or 2 years ago maybe, I went to California and I visited some friends in LA and Palm Springs, but then I went out to Joshua Tree National Park and stayed out there, and then I drove all around the area around the Salton Sea in California, which is the weirdest place I've been in the entire globe. Fascinating. It felt a little unsafe there at times, to be honest, but it was super cool. I just went to Florida last year. I like solo trips. I really do. Have you ever gotten lost while traveling? I just thought about this a second ago when I was trying to think of a scary travel experience. It involves getting lost, but it wasn't scary at all. It was quite amazing. When I was maybe 15 or so, because we lived in Scandinavia, right? Sweden, when I was younger. And we always used to drive down during the summer vacation. We would get in the car and drive down, usually to Italy. That was like the destination, but on the way we would usually stop in Prague for some time, wherever else we wanted to along the way, and then oftentimes we would stop in Austria too. My stepmom is half Austrian, so we would visit her people there for a little while and then end up in Italy, and that would be like where we stayed for a couple weeks. But when I was like 14 or 15 maybe, we had been in Austria for a while, and my stepmom's family lives kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was a teenager. I was kind of bored. Also, apparently, I was kind of a weird teenager because I told my dad, I said, you know, while we're sitting here in Austria for a while, what do you think about me and you going on a road trip to Auschwitz, the concentration camp, which is in Poland, but not that far. And why does a 14-year-old think that's fun? I don't know, but I did. I wanted to see it. And my dad's like, huh, sure. He probably thought it was weird too. But we went. So we went up to Poland and saw Auschwitz, and it was incredible. It's everything you imagine that experience will be. But we were trying to leave Poland afterward. I can't remember if we just drove up there for the day. We probably stayed overnight and came back the next day. I can't really remember. But anyway, so after we left Auschwitz, we're, driving around Poland trying to find Austria, essentially. And this was before we had GPS and all that, so we're using a map, You youths might not even know what that's like, but we got lost. I don't remember where we were, some city. And we were like, we got to ask someone for directions. And at that time, I felt like not a whole lot of people had really great English, so we're like, we should probably find a young person. So we're like scanning the sidewalk for like a young person to ask. And we see this girl walking along, and she's got like a Walkman or something in her ears. She's like bopping along. She has bright blue hair. And I remember she was also eating a bright blue ice cream cone. The hair was the same color as the ice cream. She looked young, maybe 20. So we like rolled down the windows and flagged her over, and we're like, do you speak English? She's like, yeah. And we're like, we're trying to go to Austria. Like, where? As if she's deaf or like stupid, We're like, we're going to Austria. Which is the road that will get us back to Austria? And she goes, oh, you're way off. It's kind of complicated. I'll take you. And we were trying to get to the border of Slovakia to then come down toward Austria. And she's like, I'll take you. And she opens the back door of my dad's car and gets in. And we just looked at each other like, is this safe? Are we okay with this? But she looked very safe, and her only weapon was a blue ice cream cone. My dad even said, He's like, I hope she doesn't spill it on my upholstery. Of course, that's what he was thinking about. But this woman, this girl, proceeds to guide us for a very long time to the border with Slovakia. Maybe half an hour. Way out of the town. It's like in the middle of nowhere. And we get there, and we find she's taken us to the wrong one. It's kind of like we wanted to go this way, and she took us that way. Wrong one. Right country, right border, wrong road. So we tell her that. We're like, oh crap, it's the wrong one. And she goes, no problem. I'll call my boyfriend. He works near here, and he'll meet you, and he'll drive you to the other border. And we're like, no, please, you've done enough. This is incredible. We'll figure it out from here. And she just goes, okay, bye, and gets out of the car and just starts walking away down this country road in the middle of nowhere. 30 minutes driving from where we picked her up. And we were just like, huh. So that happened. Yeah, that was one for the memory books. And what kind of kindness? Like, how many of us would do that for someone who's lost? Not very many, I don't think. I love Poland. I've always loved Poland. Okay, maybe we'll do one or two more questions as I finish this square. LGBT and identity. Let's see, what is your favorite thing about the queer community? That's fun. I think my favorite thing about the queer or LGBT community, LGBTQIA plus, whatever you want to call it, is the shocking diversity and creativity. I feel like the community is so full of really interesting characters, people who are unique and artistic and resilient. I think all people in this community have or could have a little bit of a bond, because unfortunately I think being resilient has gone with the territory for many or most of us. But I love the diversity and the creativity in the community. And there's a lot of, sub-cultures within, the rainbow umbrella that maybe I'm not personally interested in myself. But I love that there's a space for all of those things. As an example, I know a lot of gay guys just worship RuPaul's Drag Race. It's almost a requirement, I feel. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of drag. In fact, I sort of dislike drag because every time I've been to a drag show, they target me. If you haven't been to a drag show, oftentimes there's very crass humor, a lot of jokes, and a lot of calling people out and making fun in a way that's supposed to be fun, with a type of humor that's very much not my type of humor. And I also don't like to be in the spotlight. And drag queens, I feel like they can sense it, and they always call me out. But I love that there's a community for that. And not all drag queens are gay people either. There's a lot of straight people who like drag, but, not my cup of tea, but I love that there's space for all these different unique personalities. Okay, second square done. Maybe we'll do one more and a few more questions. This is going to turn into a crochet and chill video because those are longer, and I don't want all my videos to be long, but I know a lot of people do like the longer form content, so we'll do one more. Let's see what color I need. $48, we just did 57 is grape. New color. My first grape. I love that these Big Twist values always have the easy to locate center pull. It's the little things. Okay. This one might just have to sit down on the ground. I can sit in my shoe. All right. In between each square, I take a little swing break. Alright, let's find another couple questions here. There's two questions that are sort of tied together. Have you ever faced discrimination for being LGBT? And have you ever had to deal with homophobic comments online? Those are kind of related. The answer is yes. What exactly was the first question? Have you ever faced discrimination? Well, discrimination, I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how you define discrimination. Bullying, yes. Slurs, yes. So maybe that's discrimination. I went to a middle school in America, and there was one particularly lovely guy who always wanted to push me into the lockers every time he walked by, just like slam me into the lockers. Did anyone do anything about it? Nope. But that was in America, and in Scandinavia, never. Never. Andrew is 10 years younger than me, and he had a very different experience. The younger generations are so lucky. His school had like a gay straight alliance, and bullying was grounds for immediate expulsion, and people would really stick up for the, what do you want to call it, like marginalized communities. I don't know what you want to call it, but he didn't have any of that. But things have changed so rapidly. I have been called the F word for gay people. That's not a nice word. A handful of times. Some of it was by that jerk in the Midwest who used to push me into the lockers. But as an adult, I've been called the F slur twice. And the random thing is, it happened in New Orleans, both times, on 2 different trips from 2 different people. The only time in my life a stranger has used that slur, yelled that slur at me. And it was in New Orleans both times. And by the way, maybe both, but at least one of those times was right outside of a gay bar. I'm like, dude, you're in the wrong place to be talking like that. Unfortunate, because I love New Orleans. But yeah, that happened there twice. That's it, really. I will tell you something shocking. Andrew had a very pleasant youth, I guess, as an LGBT person. Although he didn't come out until he was much older than I was when I came out. But he got fired from a job for being gay. Did you know that's legal in many states in America, including Texas? Yep, he got fired once and his boss told him, I don't like gay people. Nice, right? In terms of online comments, you get a ton of hateful comments when you put yourself on the internet. And people feel very safe to write all sorts of horrible things, from the safety of their nasty little apartment they never leave, But it goes with the territory, so you just have to accept that. And I think the smartest thing to do about it is just not engage, because I feel like that's what they want, is to get a reaction out of you. But I have always said I run my YouTube channel like a dictatorship. It's not a democracy. You say something offensive and I'll block you. I don't have to give you a second chance. I don't have to allow your comment to exist on my video. I don't need it. So some of them have been so horribly offensive that they just make you burst out laughing. Like, how do people actually talk like this? And then every once in a while there's a comment that is like, wow, that's really hurtful what they said, just in general. But I have to say, most of the hate comments, I get or got on YouTube were from years and years ago. My channel used to be very different, and it was a little bit more like LGBT focused, and so I think that got the attention of like haters. Since I've been doing content related to homesteading and plants and crochet, it's very rare that I get a mean comment, and it's almost non-existent within the crochet community. People are so nice. If I get a rude comment, it's shocking now. I'm like, oh, someone's hating on me in the comment section. So thanks for all of you guys who are following me now, for being so kind. But it doesn't really bother me at all. I've been doing this for a long time, and you have to have a bit of a thick skin if you're putting yourself out there. People are happy to criticize anything and everything when you have any sort of public presence, whether you're ultra famous or just a little old crochet person on YouTube. So kind of goes with the territory. But people should be nice. Like, most people would not talk to strangers in person ever in the way they feel free to talk to people through the internet. So, like, what is wrong with you? Your mama should have slapped you. No, I'm kidding. But, yeah, it has happened, but it's very rare. Let's see. What's your favorite queer anthem? I am a child born in 1984. There is only one queen who reigns above all the rest, and that is Madonna. These young kids nowadays, they can... What's the expression I'll use? They can stand in the spotlight that she built or something. And there's other icons pre-Madonna, but Madonna was my, time period. Kylie Minogue. I remember when... Ooh, this might give me some hate comments. I should be careful. But I remember when Lady Gaga kind of appeared on the scene. I was like, excuse me, Kylie Minogue has already done all of this. Anyway, I do like her as well. But I'm a Madonna boy. She's kind of weird these days, but I will always love Madonna's music. Alright, let's do a couple maybe homesteading questions. How's that sound? Homesteading and meal prep? Homesteading and food. How did you get into homesteading? Well, I don't know. I don't remember. I have always been kind of interested in the concepts. I started making soap like 15 years ago, and a lot of the people in those communities online are very into other crafts or hobbies that are kind of homesteading, related. I had my own property in Austin, and I kind of wanted to learn about gardening and composting and things like that, and a lot of those types of people. Most of what I've learned through YouTube. And I'm like, human or deer in the forest? I think it's a deer. We have new neighbors on that side, and we've never met them before, but I think they're renovating that house because they're not there all the time. But they've been walking up, and someone has been walking up and down their driveway the whole time I've been out here. And normally I can't see that, but there's no leaves on the trees right now, and it's very strange to see people over there because there's been nobody the entire time we've lived here. So now I'm kind of being nosy, like, what are y'all doing over there? Sitting on my porch crocheting and snooping on the neighbors. When did I become a southern grandmother? But yeah, and now that we have this property, it's very much kind of the perfect environment for homesteading. Like, we inherited not only a chicken coop, but also chickens. I inherited a garden and like plenty of space for all those sorts of things. I love to cook, and I've been trying to do more with canning and preserving. I'm not a very good gardener yet, which has slowed down all of those other processes, because you can't become a master, tomato canner when you let most of your tomato plants die because you forgot to water them. Or they get blight. I've been fighting blight or Japanese beetles every year since we've moved here. I've got the Japanese beetles under control. The blight thing, when it appears, I'm like, it's game over. It usually attacks my cucumbers. So, still working on the gardening, and then all of the other things will follow. But like I like to make bread, which I also started when I was in nursing school. I've had sourdough starter on and off over the years. I've made kombucha. Like I've made my own scobies for kombucha. What else? I don't know. I just like that kind of stuff. And now we have kind of the perfect property for it. I like raising chickens. They're nice little creatures. They feed us by giving us their eggs. They also make compost for us that feeds my garden. And they eat all of our food waste that could otherwise go in the garbage. So it's kind of perfect. I love the little relationship that we have with chickens. And I actually recommend anybody who's able should get chickens. So, and then all of my plant stuff, houseplant care. I don't know if that's really homesteady, but plant cares and having plants is something I've been very into for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years now. So, I don't know. And I also love new hobbies, as you might be able to tell. I bought all of the equipment years ago to make stained glass. I had taken a stained glass class when I was in like middle school or high school. And randomly one day I was like, I want to make stained glass again. So I ordered all the things you need. Made a few things, but now it's all just sitting in the basement. But I keep it because I know one day I'm going to have a little free time and I'm going to want to dive into more of that. So I think I just like having hobbies. I look at people who don't have hobbies and I think that's so strange because I could fill every hour of every day with my hobbies. I have so many things I'm interested in that I don't have enough hours in the day. I'm also sitting here crocheting when I should be writing a paper for school before we go on our trip. But I'm going to go do that here as soon as I'm done with this square. So, little by little, I got into homesteading. And who knows what else I'm going to get into in homesteading world, in the realm of homesteading. I want a cow. That'll be when I know I'm a homesteader or a farmer. Wow, in that one question I answered almost all of the other homesteading questions. I answered like 10 of them. Do you think you'll ever live fully off-grid? Maybe that'll be my last question here. No, I don't think so. I like the idea of it, but we live in the forest, but we also live like in the suburbs of New York City. I work in Manhattan. I like that. It's why we moved out here, to be close to the city. And I like my modern conveniences. I know you can have those, or many of them, if you're off-grid, but solar panels I would like, or I would like to learn more about geothermal energy and maybe look into that for our home. But no, like I want my super lightning fast internet. I need my grow lights for my plants. We have too many subscriptions to different media services. I like the modern conveniences too. So I like to be maybe environmentally conscious, but off-grid, probably not. No. Alright, last cluster of my third square here. And I've probably been talking for quite a while. So let me just wrap this one up. And then we will call it a day. Okay. Grape. First square of grape. So, now I gotta wave in my ends, but there's my progress for today. I'm probably very backlit right now. I hope you guys have been able to tolerate that. But I just needed some sunshine. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I talked about a lot of different things today, but I have a ton of other videos on the channel, kind of maybe even addressing some of these things. If I reference something, check out the channel. I've been making videos since 2006. A lot of them are private now because they're real bad or completely unrelated to my life nowadays, but there's still plenty to check out, so feel free if you want. You can click the subscribe button. I've got several more videos coming in the next couple of weeks that I'm excited about. I literally just said, I think I've been talking for a long time, and then my battery died. That's how I know it's time to wrap things up, is when my battery dies. So I just had to run in and get another battery just to come back and say thank you guys for watching. I think I was saying there's a bunch of links in the description and different ways you can follow us if you'd like to see more. So please check those out. Now I'm going to have to unfortunately go back inside and finish my paper for school, finish some notes for school, probably do some laundry and start packing for our trip. So I hope to make some content for you guys from down there. Maybe somebody else whose name is part of this channel but very rarely makes an appearance will be willing to join me in a video or two down there. So stay tuned for that. But I've got a couple of videos that will be posted for you over the next week or two before I get back. In fact, when you see this video right now, I will be in Mexico. So in a week or two, you hopefully will see some content from there. So thanks for hanging with me today, guys. It's been fun. So excited for spring. And until next time, take care, guys.